This is your diamond insight of the sad hypocrisy by Zambian politicians. It is baffling and at the same time saddening as to how political leadership seems to have no spine when it comes to political ideology and putting their words to action. Listening to former President Edgar Chagwa Lungu yesterday was shocking when he appeared at Kabwata police station, where he warned police for their alleged misconduct, in which he lamented that they were abusing their powers and infringing on the rights of citizens, further alleging that if such a situation continues, citizens would rise and there would be an unrest forcing the president to resign. Mr. Lungu, a former head of state, should not forget that he is a man who 72 months ago was the commander-in-chief of Zambia's armed forces and the police, and during his 7-year reign, the nation experienced one of the worst breakdowns in the rule of law and political discourse. Should we remind Mr. Lungu that it was under his government that there was the shooting and killing of Nsamansama and Joseph Kaunda? Has the former head of state forgotten the brutality of the Patriotic Front cadres that harassed citizens in markets and bus stations, drove on the wrong lane on the roads and attacked opposition supporters? Let alone it takes away from the country's dignity and respect when the only surviving former head of state, regardless of his constitutional freedoms to associate, assemble and belong to a club called a political party, for him to rubbish the fact that police and other citizens hold him in high esteem as a former leader. In his words, we quote, "Ifyabu former president Ifinshu ko," end of quote. The utterance in itself is a disservice to the decorum, dignity and respect of the former head of state's office. Regardless of the anger or situation, President Lungu's advisors should manage him on the basis of the office he holds. This is not to say that we're in support of alleged police abuse, and equally, this is not to also say we're in support of everything that the UPND is doing. So whether it is PF or UPND, politicians should have an introspection of how posterity will judge them. The things that were done to President Hakainde Hichilema while in opposition, he and the UPND should not repeat on the PF or other opposition members, since they were elected on the basis of the restoration of the rule of law and political order. In the recent past, we have seen a few pockets of alleged abuse by the police and some violence by cadres, mostly during by-elections. Hence, we call upon the two leaders, the only surviving former President Edgar Chagwa Lungu and now the incumbent President Hichilema, that it is time they buried and put to rest issues of selfish political egos and political ambitions. As Zambia celebrates 60 years of our independence, we need to remind them that Zambia is bigger than all of them, and our forefathers fought to bring about freedom. Therefore, as a younger generation, we do not want to see the country set on fire or degenerate into protests that bring upheavals, as former President Lungu is insinuating, due to personal political interests. If the two leaders love this country, they should interface through the church and other stakeholders to finally put an end to their political squabbles. We are tired of the political hypocrisy of one saying something and doing the other when they are in power. Balungu velala bati na mumushi mwari babashi muchindi kwebo tupelo muchinshi. We mean this, that in a village or chiefdom, there are people who are always respected based on age and their achievements. Hence, for Zambia, it now needs President Edgar Lungu as the only surviving former head of state, who in this case should be a unifying factor, that even with the current UPND government, if something went wrong, the nation should be able to run to him for advice and guidance. This is why we insist that it is reckless for a person who once held the instruments of power to allege or insinuate a looming insurrection on the basis that police are abusing their power. President Hichilema will resign and call for an early election. So should President Hichilema's supporters rise to avenge him, we may experience a bloodbath. Both ECL and HH must not forget that Zambia is larger than them, and one day they will no longer occupy their offices or statuses of former head of state forever. Therefore, Mr. Lungu's statements do not depict that of a statesman and should be measured. He should not just throw the baby with the bathwater just because he has come back into active politics and forget the significant role he holds as a unifier and statesman that his position entails.